Hello guys, welcome back to Fanfic Dojo. Today we will be listening What If Naruto Build Harem with Hinata and Ino Part 1. Hey, Sasuke, Naruto said as he stood over Kakashi, who was laying in a futon in Tazuna's house. Should I be worried that you'll end up like that if you use the Sharingan for an extended period of time? I know what you're trying to do, Sasuke said, his arms crossed as he took off his sandals. And it's not going to work. Oh, then what am I trying to do? You're trying to rile me up. You have already showed that you know that the only reason the Sharingan drained Sensei like that was because his body and chakra system are not built for the Sharingan, so you already know you don't have to worry about something like that, idiot. Huh, Naruto said, blinking as he cupped his ear. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over this uncopyable Mokuten ninjutsu I have. Just as Sasuke knew how to annoy Naruto, Naruto knew perfectly well how to annoy Sasuke. Therefore, it came as no surprise to those who knew them that they suddenly got involved in a glaring match in which one could almost see the sparks flying between them as they tried to mutilate each other with nothing but their eyes. By the way, Kakashi-sensei. Who was that masked ninja? Hinata asked, trying to take Naruto and Sasuke's attention away from each other, and onto the matter at hand. That's the mask worn by the Kurigakure Special Hunter Nin Squad, Kakashi said, completely unable to move. They are also known as body erasers. Their duty is to completely dispose of the body without a trace. A ninja's body has within it secrets of the village's ninjutsu. Information on different chakra types, herbs, and other things that will reveal information about the village. For example, if I died, the secrets of the Sharingan could be revealed. If you're not careful, there's the danger that the enemy will steal your jutsu. A ninja's body can reveal important information. So, by killing and disposing of the missing nin who have abandoned their village, the hunter nin protect the information from getting out. They are the specialists who guard their village's secrets. No sound, no smell. That is a ninja's end. Shitty way to end, Naruto commented, giving a low whistle. I need to get some sleep, Kakashi announced suddenly. The longer I rest, the quicker I'll be back to full health. Alright, I'll keep my senses up, Naruto said, molding chakra. Sasuke sighed as he lay back on the floor, hands behind his head, muttering, something tells me this following week will be boring. Naruto looked around, and saw that Hinata had moved away from Kakashi, sitting and facing the wall. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto walked over and plopped down next to her, staring at her curiously. Hey, you alright? Hinata jumped and snapped her head toward Naruto, her eyes wide. She had no doubt been so wrapped up in her own thoughts that she hadn't even noticed him. Why yes, I'm fine, Hinata mumbled, turning her head to look down at the floor. A blind man could see that something is bothering you, Naruto said. Now, we're teammates. We're supposed to rely on each other. What's wrong? Hinata was quiet for a moment, probably contemplating whether to tell Naruto or not. Then, she sighed and said, I'm not sure if I belong on this team. And what brought this on? Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side. I'm not very strong, Naruto-kun. I'm weak, and you, Sasuke-kun, and Kakashi-sensei, you're all so strong, and I'm not. Naruto hummed as he stared at Hinata, who looked distraught. He waited for a few seconds, then asked, and? This caused Hinata to blink in confusion. What? And so what? Naruto said, shrugging. Do you think Sasuke and I were born this strong? No way. Training is the key. If you feel you're weak, then get stronger, that's all there is to it. But it's not that simple, Naruto-kun. You're making it sound so easy. It's only hard if you make it hard, Naruto said simply as he got to his feet. Tell you what, come with Sasuke and me when we go training tomorrow. We'll get you strong. For some reason, Hinata couldn't help but feel a sense of dread upon hearing that. Something about the glint in Naruto's eye had been incredibly dangerous. Suddenly, Kakashi, who had just fallen asleep, shot up in his futon, covering his face with his hand as he appeared deep in thought. "What's wrong, sensei?" Naruto asked as he sat down next to Sasuke, who was looking at their sensei curiously as well. "Huh," Kakashi uttered as he looked up at his genin. "Oh, well, body erasing teams usually dispose of the body of the person they killed right there. But that Hunter Nin took the body away," Naruto muttered, his eyes narrowing as he made the connection. "Yeah, if he needed proof of his work, he could have just taken the head," Kakashi said, stroking his chin. "And the weapon that he used to kill Zabuza?" Sasuke's eyes widened. "No way." "Yeah, exactly," Kakashi said, nodding. "What are you guys talking about?" Tazuna asked curiously. "Most likely, Zabuza is still alive," Kakashi announced, making Tazuna and Hinata go wide-eyed. "Though Senbon," Sasuke said, scratching his head in thought. "It's possible that he just put Zabuza in a momentary state of death." "Indeed. First, he took the body of the much heavier Zabuza with him. Second, he used a weapon that has a low probability of killing," Kakashi said with a sigh of resignation. "These 2 points indicate that his motive was not to kill Zabuza, but to save him. We can't ignore that possibility." "Aren't you thinking too much?" Tazuna asked nervously. "Hunter Nin are supposed to kill missing Nin. If he was even a Hunter Nin at all," Naruto muttered, crossing his arms. "But whether it's true or not, the possibility is there, so it's better to be safe than sorry." "Exactly. So, we will prepare before it's too late. Plus, whether Zabuza is dead or alive, there are no assurances that Geto hasn't hired an even stronger ninja. Therefore, Naruto, Sasuke." The 2 friends straightened up upon being addressed by Kakashi and gave him their full attention. "You 2 are very strong, and you're getting stronger every day. Hinata has massive amounts of untapped potential. Can I trust you 2 to release it while I'm recovering?" "Hey, I'm way ahead of you, sensei," Naruto said with a grin, flashing him a thumbs up. "Hee, this is getting fun." "That's not fun," came a new voice as a kid, looking no older than 8, entered the house. "Oh, Inari," Tazuna exclaimed happily. "Where were you?" "Welcome back, Grandpa," the boy, Inari, said as he walked up to Tazuna, giving him a hug. Inari, Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami, said, "Say hello to these people. They are ninja who protected Grandpa." Inari turned his head to look at Kakashi and his genin for a good long while. Then, he turned to his mother and pointed at the ninja. "Mom, they are going to die." "What was that?" Naruto barked. "There's no way you can win against Geto," Inari said adamantly. "Words like that should be saved for after the fighting is done," Sasuke said, glaring lightly at Inari. "Otherwise, you'll look like a fool afterward." "Listen, Sasuke and I can't lose to a guy like Geto," Naruto said, slinging his arm around Sasuke's shoulder. "We're gonna be heroes one day. We're not gonna go down fighting a chump like him." "Hey, let go, you fool. What are you, stupid?" Inari asked, staring coldly at Naruto. "There's no such thing as a hero." Naruto froze for a second, his eyes going cold. Then, he muttered, "Sasuke, hold me back." As ordered, Sasuke grabbed Naruto from behind, just as the blonde made to charge at Inari. "Why, you little, if you don't want to die, you should leave," Inari muttered, turning around and walking off. "Where are you going, Inari?" Tazuna asked. "To look at the ocean from my room." With that, Inari left, and Naruto glared at the closed door for a good 5 minutes before he turned away. Alright, Naruto exclaimed the following day as he stood in a clearing in the woods near Tazuna's house with Sasuke and Hinata. "I hope you're rested, because you're going to need the energy, Hinata." First of all, we're going to improve your speed and power. How are we going to do that? Hinata asked nervously as Naruto walked up to her. First, lose the jacket, he said, reaching out and unzipping the now red-faced Hinata's jacket and pulling it off her, revealing her mesh shirt and short tank top underneath, along with her already developing chest. It'll only get in the way. You need mobility. Now, excuse me. Naruto turned away, and Sasuke did the same, both of them with small blushes on their faces. If one could read minds, they would have heard them both think, she should never have been allowed to cover those up, in perfect unison. Then, Naruto cleared his throat and turned back to Hinata, who was still blushing furiously. Alright, we're going to help you progress using the same method we use to get stronger and faster, he said, skillfully avoiding staring at her chest as he reached into his right kunai pouch, taking out 2 black bracelets, identical to the ones he wore on his own wrists. Put these on, he said, handing them to Hinata, who did as ordered. Those are chakra weights. Currently, they weigh a pound each. The more chakra you pour into them, the heavier they become. You want them to be heavy enough to make you sluggish, but not heavy enough to render you unable to move. Once you have added the desired weight, we will be doing some sparring. This will help you develop muscles that won't inhibit you in your fighting style. Your musculature, as it grows stronger, will adapt to your movements. Understood. Why yes, Naruto-kun. Be careful when you add chakra to the bracelets. Too much, and you'll be unable to move, and Naruto grinned, looking a bit like a sadistic teacher, taking pleasure in his student's plight. Neither Sasuke nor I feel like removing any weight from them. Hinata eeped at that, but nonetheless channeled chakra into her bracelets, being extremely careful by channeling a little at a time, to make sure they didn't get too heavy. Once she reached a weight she felt satisfied with, she nodded to Naruto, whose eyes narrowed ever so slightly. Throw a punch, he ordered, and Hinata did so. He shook his head. Too light. You need to struggle to maintain the same speed and mobility you have without the weights. Increase it. Why yes, Naruto-kun. Hinata channeled more chakra into the bracelets and deemed herself ready. Once more she was ordered to throw a punch, and once more Naruto ordered her to increase the weights. This time, Naruto seemed satisfied, and Hinata stood there, feeling like her arms were going to get pulled out of their sockets from the weight. Alright, Naruto said, clapping his hands together. It's time for you to spar with Sasuke, he announced, which made Hinata's eyes widen. Sasuke is a much more versatile taijutsu fighter. I'm stronger than him, but I'm more of a brawler. My style is very unorthodox for ninja, so fighting me will probably just prepare you against fighting only me. Sasuke, however, has a style more closely resembling a traditional ninja style. So, you're fighting him. I won't go easy on you, though, Sasuke said, walking up to stand next to Naruto, smirking. If I did, that would be insulting. You want to get stronger, right? Why yes. Alright, then get ready, Naruto said as he moved to stand between them. This is a taijutsu only spar. That means no chakra usage whatsoever. Although, you are allowed to use your dojutsu, and the juken is allowed. Sasuke, he said and held out his hand. Sasuke nodded and removed his chikudo, tossing it to Naruto, who raised it into the air. Alright, are you both ready? Then, fight. Dash. Ouch. Sasuke muttered as he held his side, while Naruto was treating a few bruises on Hinata's arms. She had been very good at dodging Sasuke's strikes aimed at her body, but she wasn't capable of dodging them entirely, and ended up getting hit on the arms. She had surprisingly managed to get in a few strikes as well, however, and one of them hurt like hell. She had hit him with a juken strike right between his ribs, so she didn't just hit his chakra point, but also hurt him physically. I'm weak, she says, Naruto muttered, shaking his head in amusement. Hinata, do you know how many of the graduated genin would have been able to land a hit on Sasuke, except for me? And no. Hinata mumbled, her head bowed. She was too kind, in Naruto's opinion. She had already apologized profusely for hurting Sasuke several times, even though he had just waved her off every time, and still looked apologetic. No one, Naruto informed her with a grin. You're strong, Hinata, but you can get stronger. Just keep training with us, and we'll get you up to Junin level in no time. I hope so. TCH. That's not a Junin attitude. Hell, it's not even a ninja attitude, Sasuke muttered, glancing at Hinata out of the corner of his eye, as it hurt too much to turn his body. Use more force when you speak. Naruto, show her. Right, Naruto said, grinning at Hinata. What you do is just gather energy in your chest, take a deep breath, and then let it out. He instructed, pumping his fist. Yes, I'm certain I will. Say something like that. That, I couldn't. Hinata mumbled, poking her fingertips together. Such a thing. True, that might be a bit too advanced for you at this stage. Alright, then, how about a yes? Say it with guts. What my moronic friend is trying to say is that you should say it with as much energy as you can muster. A non-stuttering yes will do, however, Sasuke explained. Naruto nodded in confirmation. Then, he paused for a few seconds, followed by him gritting his teeth and snapping his head in Sasuke's direction to give him a murderous glare. Hey, Sasuke, what's with the moronic friend? Want me to beat the crap out of ya? Hey, it only took 4 seconds to register this time. You're getting faster, Sasuke said with a smirk. The smirk vanished, however, when Naruto ran up to him and kicked him where Hinata had hit him with the Juken strike. That was the scene Kakashi showed up to. Naruto was gritting his teeth and glaring down at Sasuke, who was rolling on the ground, clutching his side, while Hinata sat to the side, giggling at their antics. Kakashi leaned against his crutches, tilting his head to the side in confusion. Is this what counts as a training session for you guys? He asked, catching the attention of his genin. Oh, sensei, Naruto said, his anger fading completely, a grin plastered on his face. We've been gauging Hinata's strength, and we're taking a break right now. Ah, I see, you really look like you're relaxing. Kakashi muttered, sweat dropping. Anyway, I remembered something I was going to ask you. Have any of you learned a chakra exercise called tree climbing? It's a basic chakra exercise. In the Hyuga clan, chakra control is essential, so, we learn it at an early age. Hinata mumbled, to which Kakashi nodded, then looked to the two males of the team. Naruto, Sasuke, the Jiji taught us a couple of years ago, Naruto said, nodding, which made Kakashi's eyes widen. You got Hokage-sama to take time out of his busy schedule to teach it to you? He asked in surprise, but Sasuke, who had recovered by now, gave a scoff of amusement. More like blackmailed him, he said, smirking. Naruto got bored and wanted to learn something new. Since the Hokage is the greatest ninja in the village, Naruto figured he must know something we could learn, so he threatened that if he didn't teach us, Naruto would go ballistic in his office and throw all his paperwork out the window. Kakashi's sweat dropped again when he saw Naruto's proudly grinning face. Blackmailing the Hokage by threatening to force him to either go out and collect all his paperwork, or redo it. Threatening my Ika paradise. That Naruto is good at finding people's weaknesses and exploiting them. Shaking his head, Kakashi cleared his throat. Anyway, Tazuna-san is going to start working on the bridge again tomorrow, and I need one of you to protect him while I'm recovering. I can do it, Sasuke volunteered. That way, Naruto can focus on Hinata's training. And the day after that, Naruto can protect him, while I take over the training. Sounds like a plan, Kakashi said with an approving nod. If something happens, I want you to shoot up a flare, so everyone else can come help. I'm so tired. Hinata mumbled near the end of the week. She had been through non-stop training even since they started. When Naruto and Sasuke said they were going to work her to the bone, they weren't exactly exaggerating. Currently, everyone was at the dinner table, eating. I'm so sore, I can hardly even keep my food down. Oh, you're gonna puke? Sasuke asked, a hint of interest in his voice. I did that once, too. No shame in it. And no, I'm fine. You really need to eat, though. You need fat to convert to muscle mass, after all. Where's Naruto? Kakashi asked, blinking. His body was already much better, and he could move around without a problem. In fact, he was good as new now. Usually, he'd be the first to the dinner table. He's still out training. Damn machine. He can keep going for days. Sasuke muttered. In fact, he has been going for days, ever since that Kaiza story. When Sasuke spoke that name, Inari, who was sitting across from Sasuke, tensed up, and looked ready to leave the table. Since Sasuke didn't mention it again, however, he stayed, but kept his head down. But even Naruto has a limit, Kakashi said slowly. It would be bad if he used up too much chakra. Wouldn't surprise me if he had. The useless moron is probably dead by now, Sasuke said, shrugging. He didn't mean it, however. He knew Naruto would never die from chakra exhaustion. It was not a spectacular enough way to die for him. I wanted to ask you this earlier, but. Tazuna muttered, giving Kakashi a confused look. Why are you still here, even when I lied to you about this mission? To abandon your duty is not courageous. Below the courageous, there is nothing, Kakashi said simply. Those were the previous Hokage's words. That is the way of the shinobi. Shinobi don't move because of money alone. Just then, the door opened, and Naruto, sweaty, dirty, and panting, came in, a tired grin on his face. You've worn yourself out again, moron, Sasuke said, giving Naruto a glance. You look like you can barely stand, let alone move. I think I'm operating more on willpower than anything else right now. Naruto muttered, slouching up to the table and taking a seat. Without another word, his head dropped, impacting hard with the table, which made everyone jump. I'd rather just go to sleep right now. But first, some grub. Hee hee. I'm also super worn out from today's bridge work, Tazuna said, smiling brightly. At any rate, the bridge is almost complete. Naruto-kun, father, don't overdo it, okay? Tsunami said in stern concern, but the two just kept smiling. They sat in silence for a while, and Naruto noticed Inari staring at him intently, tears welling up in his eyes. Then, Inari snapped. Why do you guys bother so hard? No matter how hard you train, you're still no match for Getu's men. No matter what glorious claims you make, or how hard you work, when facing the strong, the weak will only end up getting killed. The grin faded from Naruto's face, and the blonde gave Inari a long, almost bored stare. Whatever. I'm not like you. I'd hate to be like you. You don't know anything about this country, yet you're being so nosy. Inari yelled. What the hell do you know about me? I'm different from you. You're always clowning around and acting so cheerful. You don't know how hard life can be. Now, the bored look faded, and Naruto's eyes, for the first time in years, turned an icy blue that no one had ever seen before. Ah, so I should be like you, then. Cry and act like the star of some great tragedy? He asked coldly. Then, it was as though a fire had ignited in his eyes as he gave Inari one of his fiercest glares, one that he didn't even use on Sasuke. Then keep crying forever, you little sissy. The tears started flowing from Inari's eyes again, and he sat there, trembling, as Naruto stood up and made to walk away, only for his knees to give out. Sasuke was out of his seat in an instant, catching Naruto before his knees even hit the floor, which made Naruto laugh. Aha! Sorry, Sasuke. Guess I did overdo it. TCH. You idiot, get some rest. You're probably going to need it tomorrow, Sasuke said as he helped Naruto get to the guest room. Naruto, still tired and sore, got out of his futon and got dressed, his eyes half-lidded as he went through his morning stretches. He gave a very loud yawn as he left the guest room and made his way toward the kitchen, only to stop outside the living room and turn to look inside it. Tsunami and Inari were on the floor, Inari helping his mother with her knitting. Ah, this is a surprise, Naruto said tiredly. You're not usually up this early. Early? Naruto-kun, Tsunami said, blinking. It's noon. Naruto blinked as well as he stared at Tsunami, before looking out the window to see that, indeed, the sun was shining brightly. His eyes widened. Ah, I overslept, he exclaimed, clutching his head. I've never overslept in my life. Sensei said you should rest. No time for rest. I need to be out there. Naruto exclaimed, rushing off. I'm off. Naruto ran out of the house and into the woods, taking a shortcut to the bridge. As he jumped from branch to branch in the trees, however, he stopped suddenly and looked down toward the road to his right. There was a boar next to the road, and it was cut up bad. He looked around, and saw several cuts in the trees, leading toward Tezuna's house. Tazuna-san said that Geto has 2 bodyguards who specialize in Iijutsu. Naruto thought, narrowing his eyes. TCH, they're not very subtle, are they? Meanwhile, Inari was in his house, trembling. 2 men had just come in and tried to take his mother, and he had been powerless to do anything. I don't want to die. I'm afraid, he thought, crying to himself. I'm sorry, Mom. You little sissy. Naruto's voice echoed in his head suddenly, making his eyes widen. Cry and act like the star of some great tragedy. He's probably sick and tired of crying, came Kakashi's voice next. Then keep crying forever, you little sissy. He knows what it means to be truly strong, just like your dad. As Inari slowly lowered his hands from his face to look at them, the voice of his dead father, Kaiza, echoed in his head. If it's truly previous, even if you lose your life, you must protect it with these 2 arms. They're all so incredible, so cool, so strong, Inari thought, wiping his eyes. Then, he stood up, a look of determination on his face, no longer crying. Will I also be able to become strong, Dad? With that, he ran out of the house, where he saw the 2 swordsmen leading his mother away. Wait, he yelled angrily, which made the 3 stop and turn to him. Inari, Tsunami yelled in distress. It's that kid, the eye-patched swordsman said. Get away from my mom. Inari cried and charged at the 2 swordsmen, who scoffed and thumbed their swords out of their sheaths. Then, they dashed forward, slicing Inari into 3 pieces. Their eyes widened, however, when instead of Inari, they had cut a wooden doll who looked exactly like him. Kawarimi no Jutsu, one of the swordsmen asked, his eyes wide as he looked toward Tsunami, to see that Naruto had arrived, holding Inari in his arms. Sorry I'm late, Naruto announced, setting Inari down next to Tsunami, grinning. But, you know, heroes usually show up at the last second, so it's alright. Naruto, Inari muttered, staring at Naruto in shock, which got him a grin from the blonde ninja. Great job, Inari. Thanks to you distracting them, I was able to save your mom. Well, if it isn't one of the loser ninja Tazuna hired, the eye-patched swordsman said, scoffing. The 2 charged at Naruto, which made Inari's eyes widen. Are you going to be alright? The boy asked in concern, while Naruto just looked calm as ever. He slowly dragged his foot against the wooden planks beneath him, a smirk on his face as he tapped his foot against it. Suddenly, 2 blunt wooden poles grew out of the wood at great speed, smashing straight into the swordsmen's chins, snapping their heads back with the force. They stumbled back, straight into two more Naruto, who raised their hands. Their raised hands contorted and transformed into wooden fists twice their normal size. The swordsman only had the time to give quick eeps, before the fists smashed into their faces, knocking them out cold. Once the swordsmen were tied up and left hanging upside down from a tree, Naruto casually brushed non-existent dust off his hands and gave a grin. Piece of cake. How did you know those swordsmen were coming here? Inari asked. Oh, there was a cut-up boar in the forest, and a lot of cuts on the trees leading here. I got a bad feeling, so I turned back. Lucky I did, Naruto said as the grin faded, to be replaced by a soft smile. Ah, sorry, Inari, about yesterday. I called you a sissy, but you're obviously not one, he said and put his hand on Inari's head, the grin returning once more. You're strong. Inari's eyes widened, and tears started welling up in his eyes. Then, with a muttered, damn it, he ducked his head and wiped his eyes. I decided I wasn't going to cry anymore. You're going to make fun of me and call me a crybaby. I'd never stoop to such a low-class insult. Tear-shedding baby wimp, maybe, Naruto said, shrugging. Then he grinned at Inari again. But that doesn't apply here. It's okay to cry when you're happy, Inari. That did it. Inari started crying again as Naruto turned away, sighing. Ah well, if they attacked here, then the bridge is probably in danger. Sasuke can handle things, but it'd be bad if he hogged the spotlight. It might get to his head. I can count on you here, right? Yup, Inari said immediately, once more wiping his eyes. Alright, Naruto is blasting off. With that, Naruto took off. Dash. Before the encounter Naruto had with the swordsman, Sasuke, Hinata, Kakashi, and Tazuna had just made it to the end of the bridge, which was almost at the mainland, to find that the 5 remaining workers were on the ground, bleeding. What's this? Tazuna exclaimed, rushing up to one of them, the only one who seemed to be awake. What happened? A monster, the worker muttered, gritting his teeth in pain, just as a thick mist rolled in. Here they come, Kakashi said as Tazuna backed up, and the ninja took up a defensive formation around him. Kakashi-sensei. This is Zabuza's Kurigakur no Jutsu, Hinata mumbled, activating her Byakugan. Long time no see, Kakashi, came Zabuza's voice through the mist. I see you're still with those brats. He's shaking again, poor kid. He was referring to Sasuke, who was shivering as a large group of Zabuza clones appeared around them. Sasuke gave a small grin as his Sharingan activated. I'm just so damn excited to see you again, Sasuke said, which made Kakashi smile. Do it, Sasuke. Sasuke gripped his Chikudo and pulled it out of his sheath, moving so fast that he had only just barely unsheathed the sword when he reached the first Zabuza clone. Before the water from the first clone had even splashed to the ground, Sasuke reappeared in his original spot, all of the clones exploding as he slowly sheathed his Chikudo. I don't know if anyone's ever told you, Zabuza, but you're a real drip, Sasuke joked, but then froze and palmed his face. Damn it, I've been hanging around Naruto too much. He saw through the water clones, came Zabuza's voice as the mist cleared slightly to show Zabuza and that fake hunter Nin standing on the bridge. It looks like a rival has appeared, Haku. Indeed it does, the hunter Nin, Haku, said with a nod. It seems our suspicion was right on the mark, Kakashi commented, appearing to be the epitome of calmness, as always. That masked one, he's obviously Zabuza's comrade, standing right next to him and all. I'll fight him, Sasuke said, narrowing his eyes. Tricking us with that stupid act. I hate bastards like that the third most. Third, Kakashi asked, blinking. Second is Naruto when he's cranky. First is you when you're late. That caused Kakashi to sweat drop. An impressive young man, Haku spoke, ignoring their conversation. Even though the water clones only have 1/10 of the original strength. Still very impressive. But we have gained the first advantage, Zabuza said. Go. Yes. Haku started spinning incredibly fast and shot forward. Sasuke tensed and did the same, unsheathing his Chikudo again. The two clashed halfway, Sasuke smirking. Oh, nice speed. However, it's nothing my Sharingan cannot see, the Uchiha said. In all honesty, Haku was rather slow, compared to Naruto's Mokuden ninjutsu, which moved at incredible speed. Hinata, it's not the most glamorous assignment in a fight, but stay in front of Tazuna and protect him, Kakashi said. We'll let Sasuke handle the kid. Yes, sensei, Hinata said, nodding with determination. Ho, it seems our training has paid off, Sasuke said, demonstrating how Haku's strength was nowhere near his own by turning his head to look at Hinata, not even appearing bothered by the Senbon-wielding ninja pushing against his Chikudo. There wasn't even a tremble in your voice just now. Good work, Hinata, he praised, before turning back to Haku, who raised his hand in a half-ram seal. I don't want to have to kill you, but you won't stand down, will you? Haku asked, which made Sasuke scoff. Don't be foolish. I see, but you won't be able to keep up with my speed the next time. Plus, I've already gained 2 advantages. 2 advantages? Sasuke repeated. The first is the water on the ground. And the second is that I have occupied one of your arms. You will now only be able to run from my attacks. Sasuke's eyes widened when Haku started forming seals with only one hand, ending in a half-ram seal again. The water around them suddenly rose into the air and formed needles, which all flew straight toward Sasuke. Despite the impending danger, however, Sasuke just smirked at Haku. How foolish. With that, the needles all pierced his body as Haku jumped away. Sasuke! Kakashi yelled, his eye wide upon seeing the water needles piercing his student's body, while Zabuza just chuckled. Everyone's eyes widened in shock, however, when Sasuke exploded in a puff of smoke. Kage Bunshin, Haku whispered in surprise. He tensed and spun around suddenly, just in time to cop a kick to the face, courtesy of Sasuke. Sasuke's ankle impacted with the mask, perfectly hooking his foot around Haku's head, which allowed him to carry the ninja with him during his spin kick, and send him flying back towards Zabuza. I can't have you underestimating my team by calling them brats, Kakashi said to the shocked Kiri ninja after quickly recovering from his own shock. Sasuke is Konoha's Rookie of the Year, Hinata is a Hyuga, the number 1 kunoichi of her graduating class, and the other is Uzumaki Naruto, wielder of the Mokuden ninjutsu bloodline. Zabuza, however, just started chuckling. Haku, do you realize that at this rate we'll be driven back? Yeah, we can't have that, Haku said as the air suddenly grew cold, while the ninja put his hands in a strange seal Sasuke had never seen before. Haijutsu. Makyu Hyusho, secret technique. Demonic ice mirrors. The water on the ground around Sasuke suddenly rose up to form plates of water, which froze and took on an appearance akin to that of a mirror. The mirrors rose up and formed a dome around Sasuke, who looked around with an annoyed look on his face. Mixed element bloodline, TCH, I hate those. Mostly because he wouldn't be able to copy it, even if his Sharingan were to evolve to its most complete form. Haku moved over to one of the mirrors, and stepped into it. How he managed to fit in there, Sasuke had no idea. The wonders of chakra, he supposed. In any case, Haku could be seen standing inside the mirror, but then, just as Sasuke was about to smash it, an image of Haku appeared in every single one of the mirrors surrounding him. Well then, shall we begin? Haku asked. I'll show you my real speed. Sasuke saw it coming in slow motion. Haku shot out of one of the mirrors and headed right for him. However, Unfortunately, his body was not as quick to react as his eyes, and he had barely managed to raise his arms before the shoulder of his shirt was torn, and a cut appeared in his flesh. Then came another attack, and another, all of them too fast for Sasuke to properly react to. Sasuke. He heard Kakashi's voice from outside the dome as he covered his head with his arms. Sasuke-kun. Hinata yelled, and Sasuke looked up to see Hinata throwing a kunai at one of the mirrors. However, Haku came halfway out of the mirror and caught it with ease. This was good, however, as it forced him to stop the attacks on Sasuke, who took this time to think things through. His speed is greater than mine. This jutsu, it obviously moves partly into space-time territory. Is he hitching a ride on the light reflecting off the mirrors? TCH, too many theories and not enough data, and I don't particularly fancy getting hit again just to find out more. He thought, closing his eyes and thinking hard. Think. I can take off my weights, but even then, I doubt I'd be fast enough. In here, I'm like a sitting duck. I can't try to run, even if I create a bunch of cage bunshin. Besides, my chakra stores aren't nearly as large as Naruto's, so I can't waste chakra on clones that will probably be killed, anyway. If only Hinata hadn't been forced to protect Tazuna, she could have attacked from the outside, while I attacked from the inside. Now then, Haku's voice snapped him out of his thoughts, and he opened his eyes to see Haku in the mirrors again. Shall we continue? Sasuke screwed his eyes shut and waited for the pain. However, the only thing he noticed was a tremor in the ground, and then a heavy thud. He opened his eyes again and looked to the right, to see a wooden pole sticking out of the ground, and behind it was Haku, sprawled on the ground. Before Sasuke could recover from his surprise, Haku shot to his feet and dashed back into the mirror. Interesting jutsu you have there, came Naruto's voice from outside the dome. A Hyouten ninjutsu bloodline technique, utilizing not only nature manipulation, but also moving into space-time ninjutsu territory. Water and wind mixed to become ice. It allows you to move from mirror to mirror at the speed of light wherever the light from your mirror can reflect. To cope with the speed, the jutsu also improves your senses. To you, it must look like everything around you is moving in slow motion. Hey, that's what you can expect from Naruto, Sasuke thought with a smirk. Dumb as hell in most areas, but when it comes to analyzing and breaking down chakra and its technique, he is one of the fastest thinkers around. He couldn't have been here for more than a few seconds. However, like most jutsu, yours has flaws, Naruto continued, chuckling. The biggest one is that although you can see out the back, there is no mirror across from you to catch you if you move out of it. The second is that there is only one of you. A sensor, like me, utilizing a ninjutsu that reacts based on my thoughts, can easily predict from where you are going to strike based on your location. I admit, it was brilliant of you, leaving a chakra trace in every single mirror. However, you, the real one, will always carry chakra stores much larger than the other mirrors. You won't be able to attack Sasuke anymore. It's over. It is over, Haku repeated slowly. I'm afraid not. Your friend is still within my dome. I will kill him if you try anything. Sasuke, you can see him, right? In freaking slow motion, but I can't quite keep up. Remove the weights. I'll provide cover. Sasuke smirked as he reached for his wrists, removing the chakra bracelets, and then reaching for his ankles, removing identical bracelets. Haku came shooting out of another mirror, but stopped when another wooden pole shot up in front of him. He changed direction and shot into another mirror. It kept going like this for a while, Sasuke watching closely with his Sharingan as Haku shot out of mirror after mirror, getting blocked by Naruto's wood. He sat there, waiting for the perfect opportunity, and he knew Naruto was trying to create it. There it was. Yet another wooden pole shot up, blocking Haku's path and forcing him to turn right, Sasuke's left. Sasuke, who was sure Haku had lost all focus on him by now, crossed the distance between them in 2 quick steps, his speed greatly increased after removing his weights, and spun, swinging his sword. "I got you," he exclaimed triumphantly as he felt his sword meet resistance, but cutting through it with ease. Upon completion of the swing, Haku's head was separated from his body. A millisecond after his death, the ice mirrors shattered, falling to the ground in a heap. In a blur, Naruto appeared next to Sasuke, patting him on the shoulder. "You alright? Why wouldn't I be?" Sasuke asked, raising an eyebrow. "You just killed someone," Naruto said. "Isn't your first kill supposed to be traumatic? It kind of was for me. There are things that are much more traumatic up here," Sasuke said as he pointed at his head. Naruto accepted this as the truth. After all, Sasuke had seen much death in his past. "Besides, I'm not like you, so I'm not really affected." Usually, Naruto would have slugged Sasuke on the mouth for a comment like that, but now wasn't the time for that. So, he felt a change in subjects might be good. "Can't believe you lost in speed," he commented, grinning slightly. "He cheated," Sasuke grumbled. "He helped himself along with space-time jutsu." "Very true," Naruto said with a chuckle as he turned to look into the mist in the direction of their teammates. "This is strange. What's the matter?" Sasuke asked. "Zabuza isn't alone. There are 8 more chakra signatures around him that weren't there before." "Did Kakashi summon someone, you think?" "Yeah, and it's not much, but the mist has cleared a bit," Sasuke said, nodding slowly. He gestured for Naruto to follow him, and they walked through the mist, until they reached the chakra signatures. There, the mist was clear enough for them to see what was going on. Zabuza was standing with Kakashi in front of him. 8 dogs that had seemingly sprouted from the ground were all biting down on Zabuza's limbs, sword, and shoulder, keeping him in place. Both Junin's heads turned to stare at the 2 genin, and Naruto raised a hand, waving at Kakashi. "Yo, sensei. The kid has been taken care of. Good work, Sasuke, Naruto," Kakashi said, smiling at them, before looking at Zabuza again. "I'll show you something, Zabuza. This is my own original technique. It's not a copy." Kakashi went through 3 simple seals, and then grabbed his wrist and started channeling chakra into his hand with a call of Reikiri, lightning cutter. The chakra, taking the form of electricity, started sparking around him hand, until the lightning covered his entire hand, which made Naruto and Sasuke go wide-eyed. Hey, are you seeing that?" Naruto asked in surprise. "Why yeah, with chakra output on that level, and with the lightning element no less, that should be able to cut through anything." "You're too dangerous," Kakashi told Zabuza, staring coldly at him. "Tazuna-san, who you're trying to kill, is this country's courage. The bridge he seeks to build is this country's hope. Your ambition sacrifices many people. That's not what a shinobi should do." "I don't give a damn," Zabuza muttered. "I fight for my own ideals, and that shall continue. I'll ask once more. Surrender," Kakashi advised. "Your future is death." Zabuza, hardcore to the end, just grinned behind his bandages at Kakashi in defiance. Kakashi sighed, then dashed forward and punched his hand straight through Zabuza's heart. The large dog that had been latched onto Zabuza's shoulder jumped back just in time for Kakashi's hand to protrude from Zabuza's back. And so ended the life of the terrifying demon of the bloody mist, Momochi Zabuza. Naruto supposed that this was a worthy death for him, fighting the copy ninja Kakashi. The lightning surrounding Kakashi's hand died down as Zabuza's eyes closed. The dogs poofed out of existence, and Kakashi lowered the man's body to the ground, pulling his hand out. "Naruto-kun! Sasuke-kun!" Hinata yelled out in relief, only just now noticing her teammates having been completely focused on Kakashi's fight with Zabuza. Chump had nothing on us. Naruto exclaimed triumphantly, giving Hinata a thumbs up, but Sasuke wasn't so happy. He grunted and crossed his arms. So you say, but it took two of us to take down the one of him. And if he wanted, he could have just killed me upon the first attack. I wasn't fast enough to dodge him. He was holding back. Well, aren't you a mood killer? Naruto grumbled as the mist cleared completely, to show a very large group of thugs at the end of the bridge, with a very short man wearing glasses and a business suit at the front. Well, the short man said, a cruel grin on his face. He talked big, but it seems Zabuza was nothing but a cute little devil after all. You are Getu. Kakashi spoke, which immediately caught the interest of his genin. Thank you for killing Zabuza, saving me the trouble of doing so myself, Getu said, still grinning. Hiring normal ninja is too troublesome. Not only are they more expensive, but there's always the chance that they might betray me. So I hire missing nin, and have them battle. Then, when both parties are weakened, I have them both killed with numbers. And now you, the Junin, are tired and weakened, I can go through with my plan. How's? Getu stopped rather suddenly and two kunai impacted with his forehead, piercing his brain. Kakashi looked over his shoulder to see that the throwers had been Naruto and Sasuke, who looked rather bored. I hate people who feel the need to brag about their plans. Sasuke muttered, while the thugs, shocked, stared at Getu's dead form, which had slumped to the ground. Hey! One of them yelled out, a grin suddenly appearing on his face. Damn ninja, you just killed our meal ticket. Now we're just gonna have to kill you, then pillage this village and take anything of value. He got yells of agreement from his companions as they all charged at the four ninja and the bridge builder. Then, an arrow was heard piercing the air, impacting with the bridge between the thugs and Team 7, making the thugs stop suddenly, their eyes widening at the sight behind Team 7 and Tazuna. Everyone looked back to see Inari standing with pretty much every male villager behind him, all of them carrying weapons and various sharp tools and crossbows. If you come any further onto our island, the citizens of this country will stop you with everything we've got. Naruto managed to keep from insulting Inari by remarking upon the fact that the boy was wearing a wok pan for a helmet, and instead just flashed the kid a thumbs up. Nice timing, Inari. Hee, a hero shows up at the last second, right? Inari said with a grin. Alright, let's help out increasing the numbers, Sasuke said, putting his hands in a cross seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In a poof of smoke, 7 more Sasuke appeared, all of them with identical smirks on their faces. Kakashi did the same, creating 15 clones. Then came Naruto. The entire bridge was filled with about 40 Naruto Kage Bunshin, all of them grinning brightly at the now terrified thugs, who immediately turned around and ran back to the ship that had carried them there, some of them even jumping into the water out of fear. As usual, I'm amazed by the sheer number. Sasuke muttered, sighing. You sure do like to overkill, don't you? Naruto just grinned as they all dispelled their clones, and the villagers started cheering. Hinata let out a ha as she attacked Naruto, who deflected the palm strike and countered with one of his own, which was dodged. It had been 3 weeks since the bridge was completed and Team 7 had returned to Konoha in triumph. Since the mission had been increased in rank, their mission history marked it as AB rank, which would do wonders for them in the long run. After all, if they could complete AB rank with no lasting injuries, AC rank was nothing. Sasuke appeared on Training Area 7 in a blur and waved at his 2 sparring teammates. Hey, Naruto, I'm tagging in. The Hokage wants to see you. Huh? Naruto asked, blinking as they both paused in their sparring, and Sasuke moved over, holding up his hand for Naruto to slap. What for? No idea. Kakashi told me to tell you that the Hokage wants to see you. That's all, Sasuke said, wiggling his hand. Naruto shrugged and slapped it with his own, tagging out as Sasuke took his place in front of Hinata, ready to continue the spar. Naruto flashed through hand seals and performed a Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, disappearing with a blur and reappearing outside the Sandame's office window. He peered inside and saw that the old man was currently puffing contentedly on his pipe, reading that little orange book that Kakashi always read. Raising his hand, he knocked, making the old man jump and quickly hide the book in one of his desk drawers, looking toward Naruto, who waved happily. Ah, Naruto-kun, the Sandame said after moving over to the window and opening it, allowing Naruto to climb inside. Good of you to show up so fast. I heard you wanted to talk to me, Naruto said, raising an eyebrow as he moved to stand in front of the Sandame's desk. Unlike most ninja, he didn't stand at attention, instead slouching lazily with his hands in his pockets. Yes, I do. It is something very serious, an S-rank secret that has been kept since the day you were born. I get the feeling this isn't a good secret, Naruto muttered, sighing. Naruto-kun, you have always wondered why you experience such hatred from the villagers, have you not? The Sandame asked, and Naruto immediately tensed at that, standing straighter and giving the Sandame his full attention. Naruto thought hard about it, and several suspicions, which he and Sasuke had come up with growing up, surfaced in his mind. Since the day I was born, he muttered, narrowing his eyes. This wouldn't have anything to do with the Kyuubi, would it? Indeed it does, the Sandame said. The official story in this village is that the Yondaime, your father, gave his life to kill the Kyuubi. That is not completely true. He gave his life, he died a hero, and he stopped the Kyuubi from destroying the village. However, he didn't kill it. Naruto's eyes widened. The mysterious seal on my stomach. Yes, Naruto-kun, it is the seal that contains the Kyuubi, which Minato sealed into you. Why, though? Naruto asked, furrowing his brow. Why would he do that to me? That, I can't answer. Well, partly, at least, the Sandame said, puffing on his pipe. I have been studying the sealing technique he used, the Shiki Fujin dead demon consuming seal, and I have come to realize something. Minato only sealed half the Kyuubi's chakra inside you, not because he wished to, but because it was both physically and conceptually impossible to seal it all. It was just too great. I arrived on the scene in time to see your mother holding down the Kyuubi with her special chakra, already dying. You see, she was once the container of the Kyuubi, and it was forcefully extracted from her. In the middle of the sealing, Kushina was weakened, and her grip on the Kyuubi was loosened. The Kyuubi attempted to kill you as soon as the opportunity presented itself. Keyword being attempted, Naruto said, crossing his arms. You know, seeing as I'm still here. Indeed. Both Minato and Kushina jumped in front of the Kyuubi's claw and allowed it to pierce them instead of you. I know that you, like all orphans, have always wondered if they really loved you. That is the proof of their love. But no one knew about it, right? Naruto asked, furrowing his brow again. I mean, I have never heard anyone talk about how Uzumaki Kushina was the container of the Kyuubi. So why do people know about me? It was impossible to keep the sealing completely secret, Naruto-kun. However, when I was reinstated as the Hokage upon Minato's death, I made a law stating that no one was to speak of you being the new container of the Kyuubi. The punishment for speaking of it was death. However, that did not seem to stop them from preventing their children from associating with you in other ways, I am sad to say. Well, good thing you told me now, when I've been around Sasuke long enough to think about things and actually use logic sometimes, Naruto said, nodding. Had you told me when I was younger, I probably would have freaked. I am actually amazed you are taking this so well, the Sandaime said, smiling proudly at Naruto. I had expected a more surprised reaction. Well, Sasuke and I have theorized for years now, Naruto said with a shrug. The subject of the Kyuubi has come up many times. Besides, this isn't the worst shock a kid could experience. It's not, the Sandaime asked, his eyebrows rising in surprise. Nope. I heard a story from Kakashi about this kid in River Country who grew up calling his single parent, Mom, only to later find out that she was an hermaphrodite, and was in actuality his dad. Now that's a shocker if I've ever heard one. The Sandaime gave an exasperated sigh, but couldn't help but smile nonetheless. After all, leave it to Naruto to add even a small amount of humor to any situation. Well, in any case, it's actually a relief for me to hear that they don't hate me for me, but rather the Kyuubi. So, what are you going to do now, Naruto-kun? The Sandaime asked, stopping Naruto, who had opened the window and made to climb out. Naruto looked at the Sandaime with a grin on his face. That's obvious. I'm just gonna have to prove to them that I'm me, Senju Naruto, legacy of the Shodai, Nadaime, and Yondaime Hokage, future Rokudaime Hokage. Rokudaime, the Sandaime asked curiously. Why not Godaime? Well, let's face it, Gigi, you're getting up there in the years. You're probably gonna retire again soon, and I'm not strong enough to be Hokage yet, Naruto said with a shrug. Then, he waved at the old man and jumped out the window. When he returned to the training area, he found that Kakashi was there, watching as Sasuke and Hinata sparred. Naruto walked up to stand beside his sensei and noticed that the two genin had stepped up the game. Hinata's Byakugan was activated, Sasuke's sword was out, and his Sharingan was blazing. The two moved with amazing speed. Hell, even after such a short time, Naruto dare say that Hinata's speed rivaled his own. Not Sasuke's though. Sasuke had always been the fastest of the two of them, and it showed. Alright, I'd say that's enough, Kakashi announced once the two genin froze, Sasuke's Chikuto an inch away from Hinata's face. Both of them were panting softly, sweat on their faces as their respective dujutsu deactivated. Kakashi glanced at Naruto. Oh, welcome back, Naruto. How was your meeting with the Hokage? It was good, Naruto said, nodding slowly. Found out that my mom and dad died saving my life, and that my dad sealed the Kyuubi into my gut. Hinata's eyes widened at hearing that, while Sasuke's eyes narrowed slightly. The seal on your stomach, the Uchiha stated in realization. It seems one of our theories was right. Yeah, it's a relief, though. The people hate me for the Kyuubi, and not for something like my personality or my name, or anything like that, Naruto said, a small smile on his face. He glanced at Hinata. You don't seem very surprised. I have heard whispers about you, Hinata said softly. I have heard people whisper Kyuubi when talking about you. I never really knew what they meant by that, but now I do. I'm glad to see you're all so mature about this, Kakashi said, smiling brightly at them all. I had honestly expected a more violent reaction from at least you, Naruto. It was a shocker, but it was no hermaphrodite dad revelation, Naruto said with a shrug. Alright, I'm going to talk to you about some things, Kakashi said, gesturing for Sasuke and Hinata to come closer. It's partially about your training, and partially about something I think you will find even more interesting. Well, are you going to tell us, or keep us in suspense? Sasuke asked as he crossed his arms, which made Kakashi smile. I was thinking of making you beg to hear about it, but I guess you guys wouldn't do that. Alright, first of all, the training. I would have wanted to do some 1-1-1 training with each of you, but things have come up. Hinata, I talked to Hiashi-sama about your progress. He expressed great disbelief, but wants you to come home for a spar with your sister. Hinata's eyes widened at the opportunity to show her father how strong she had gotten. Sasuke, you will be training with me. We'll be doing some one-on-one, because I'm sure you couldn't help but copy my Reikiri when you saw it. Sasuke huffed and looked away, his way to show that he was a bit embarrassed at getting caught. In Naruto, Jiraiya-sama of the legendary Sannin has sent word that he will be coming to the village soon to oversee your training. Seems like we'll all be powerhouses once our training is complete, Sasuke asked, smirking, which made Naruto scoff in amusement. I'm already a powerhouse. It is true that at present, Naruto is probably the one who has the most power and stamina, Kakashi said, nodding. However, Sasuke is much more experienced in genjutsu, and possesses greater speed and a sharper mind. Hinata, I'm sorry to say, is not in the lead in any area. However, although it's unofficial, she possesses great knowledge in medicine, and will no doubt become an amazing medic nin in time. Not to mention that her brain has the potential to become greater than any of yours, Kakashi said, rubbing his chin and seeing Hinata blush at the praise. Hey, no arguments here, Naruto said with a bright grin. She's already smarter than me, and it won't be long until she leaves Sasuke in the dust in that field as well. As long as I'm satisfied with my own level of intelligence, I couldn't care less, Sasuke said simply. Now, what was this thing we would find even more interesting? Oh, yes, Kakashi said as he dug into his kunai pouch, taking out 3 pieces of paper and handing them over. I nominated you all for the Chunin exams. It's in a week, so we won't be getting as much training in as you probably would have liked, but I think it's worth it. Though this is just a nomination. Whether to take the exam is up to each of you. Those who wish to take it should sign these papers and turn them in at room 301 at the academy in a week's time at 1600 hours. Are you sure we're ready for this? Hinata asked after taking her application form and staring down at it. She looked up, however, as Kakashi placed a hand on her head. Hinata, I know you don't feel like you have contributed to this team, and so you probably feel like you're weak. However, this couldn't be farther from the truth. I have watched your training, and I'll tell you now. You're ready. Yeah, Hinata, listen to the Cyclops, but not really a Cyclops because he actually has an eye under the headband, Naruto said with a grin. Your speed rivals my own as it is, and with your Byakugan and Hyuga Taijutsu, you're a force to be reckoned with. And as we've already stated, you're much more intelligent than the blockhead, Sasuke said, jutting his thumb in Naruto's direction, only to get 2 fingers jabbed into his kidney, courtesy of said blockhead, making him sink to his knees, clutching at his side in pain. So, later found Naruto and Sasuke walking through Konoha, coming from Sasuke's favorite dango shop. They had used rock paper scissors in order to decide whether to go to Ichiraku Ramen or Toyama Dango. Naruto, like almost always, lost. Just once, I'd like to get ramen. Naruto muttered, chewing on the dango stick in his mouth. Yeah, well, Sasuke started, but stopped when they heard a very familiar voice scream in fear. It was Konohamaru, the Hokage's grandson, who idolized Naruto and Sasuke. Their eyes widened as they took off toward Konohamaru's voice, only to sweat drop when they landed on a tree branch and saw that Konohamaru and his 2 friends, Moegi and Udon, were being chased by none other than Haruno Sakura. Then, Konohamaru, not looking where he was going, ran right into a man dressed in all black, wearing kabuki makeup, getting knocked on his ass. That hurt, the kabuki man said, standing next to a blonde girl who had her hair done up in 4 spiky ponytails. The man reached down and grabbed Konohamaru by the scarf and hoisted him into the air. I said, that hurt, you little piece of shit. Hey, Naruto, Sasuke muttered as Sakura started apologizing. What do you make of them? Sunagakure Shinobi, judging by the forehead protectors, probably here for the Chunin exams, Naruto muttered back. From the fan, I'd say the girl uses Fuden ninjutsu. The guy, whoever, what's that thing on his back? No doubt some kind of tool. Sasuke muttered. Suna is known for their grasp on Fuden ninjutsu, and for their skills as puppeteers, so. A puppet, then, most likely, Sasuke said with a nod, fishing a kunai out of his pouch. Well, we better stop him from hurting our cute little underling. He gave the kunai to Naruto, who took aim and threw it perfectly so that the ring on the bottom impacted with the puppeteer's thumb, making him drop Konohamaru and turn his head to look up at the two genin. Hey now, Naruto said, crossing his arms as he sat down on the branch, just because the Chunin exam has allowed you to enter our village, that doesn't mean you can just go around beating up our kids. Sasuke-kun, Sakura cried happily, which made Naruto scratch his head. And what am I? Chopped liver. TCH, more people who piss me off, the Kabuki man said as he grabbed the bundle on his back and set it down. I hate show-offs like you two the most. Hey, you're even going to use Karasu? The girl asked, her eyes widening in surprise. Well, I can't say that I would mind a good brawl, Naruto said, then jutted his thumb in the direction of the tree trunk. But I don't reckon he's keen. Kankuro, stop it, came a voice from the other side of the trunk. Standing upside down on a branch was a red-haired teen around Naruto and Sasuke's age, his arms crossed. On his back was a very large gourd, which made both Naruto and Sasuke raise an eyebrow. You're an embarrassment to our village. The Kabuki man, Kankuro, flinched. Losing control over yourself in a fight, how pathetic, the redhead continued in a creepy, monotone voice. Why do you think we came to Konoha? Listen, Gaara, they started it, and. Shut up, I'll kill you. Kankuro flinched again, and started visibly trembling now. Oh okay, I'm sorry. I'm also sorry, the girl said, smiling nervously. Really sorry. Sorry to you guys, Gaara the redhead said to Naruto and Sasuke, as the blonde stood up and leaned against Sasuke's shoulder. Did you see his eyes? He whispered as Gaara vanished in a swirl of sand, to reappear between Kankuro and the blonde girl. Yeah, Sasuke muttered. They weren't exactly pleasant. The two jumped down when the Suna team turned away and walked off. Hey, you three, Sasuke said as they landed in front of the Konohamaru core and Sakura. Your names? Gaara was quiet for a moment, staring at them. Then, he muttered, Sabaku no Gaara. This is my sister, Temari, and my brother, Kankuro. I'm also interested in you too. Your names? Uchiha Sasuke, Naruto. Haven't decided on what clan name to use yet, though. The trio left, and Naruto and Sasuke were left staring at the spot where they had been previously. Naruto, Sasuke said, glancing at the blonde. That gourd kid had creepy eyes. What do you make of him? TCH, you think his eyes were creepy? You should have gotten a taste of his chakra. It was vile. I guess we'll have to be careful around him. Dash. Hinata slowly exhaled as she stood in the training room in the Hyuga main family manor. She had known that she had progressed with Naruto and Sasuke's training, but she didn't think she was this good. Her reactions had greatly improved. Hanabi's strikes seemed to move in slow motion now. Not to mention that those that actually hit didn't pack the same punch anymore, and Hinata's strikes were a lot stronger. That was why Hanabi was on the mat, panting, and Hinata was standing, for the first time ever. She didn't even glance at her father, not wanting to see the pure surprise that she knew was visible on his face. He had never expected much of her, always calling her weak and a failure. She didn't want to see that such a thing was exactly what he had expected of her. That's enough, Hiyashi said, and his voice clearly showed the surprise Hinata didn't want to see. It would seem as though being placed on Kakashi's team paid off. Kakashi-sensei has taught me to work in a team, and showed me many ways to use my skills to their fullest potential, father, Hinata said, nodding slowly, still not looking at Hiashi. However, I have my teammates to thank for my increase in said skills. The Uchiha and Uzumaki boys. Hiashi muttered softly. They have some use after all. To make someone like you capable of beating Hanabi. Hinata fought to maintain her strong expression. Both Naruto and Sasuke's voices echoed in her head, things that they had said during their training sessions over the last few weeks. Oi, Hinata, don't be so meek all the time. You gotta show guts and energy, or no one will take you seriously. Stand up for yourself. Your weakness is your lack of self-confidence, that's all. Guts. Say it with me, come on, guts. A smile slowly appeared on Hinata's face, and she turned to look at her father, who looked surprised at the confidence shining in her eyes. Just watch, father. I'll just become stronger and stronger.